Hi there, my name is Matti Sulanto. I'm a photographer based in Helsinki, Finland. In this video, I'm gonna take a look at the Panasonic Lumix LX100II and I'm gonna give you my first impressions on that. If you are new here, please consider subscribing to my channel and tap the bell so you won't miss any of my future videos. I'll publish a new video every Tuesday. The Panasonic Lumix LX100II is a premium class fixed lens compact camera with a micro four thirds sensor and a 24-75mm equivalent zoom lens. The maximum aperture is from f1.7 to 2.8 and the maximum full frame equivalent aperture is of course from about 3.5 to 5.6. Some people, or many people actually, insist on the equivalent focal lengths and apertures, and it sort of makes sense. It's easier to compare different sensor sizes. But I don't really care about that. I think it's more about choosing the right camera for the job and not so much about comparing them. But I agree, before you can choose, you have to know. And it can be difficult, especially for a beginner, to understand all the focal lengths and sensor sizes today. Alright, back to the LX100II. It's not really a small camera, it's compact, but not really small. It's about the size of a small micro four thirds system camera, like a Lumix GM or an Olympus Pen EPL. It still fits in a coat pocket easily and it's easy to carry around. It weighs about 390 grams, ready to shoot. So it's not the lightest camera either, but it feels reassuringly solid in hand. And actually the weight feels just about right. Any lighter would feel flimsy and any heavier would feel too much. The LX100II seems well put together. Most of the body and the lens exterior seems to be made of metal. It feels like a premium product, but then again it should for the price. Here in Finland the price is around 1,000 euros. I'm pretty traditional when it comes to certain camera features, and one of those features is the viewfinder. I really want a viewfinder in my camera. I like to use my phone, and I also use the rear display on a real camera if necessary, but I really prefer a viewfinder. When looking through a viewfinder, I feel my shooting position is better, and I also feel I can see better what I'm doing. The LX100II has a decent viewfinder. It's not the best viewfinder, but it's pretty good, and it's also quite easy to use if you happen to wear specs like I do. There are quite a few small buttons all over the camera body, but the main controls are nice and large enough to handle even with gloves, like I just did this morning. It was a gorgeous winter day here in Helsinki, but pretty cold, around -17, so gloves were really necessary. I got a comment that I'm whining too much about the cold weather. And I guess I have mentioned it a couple of times in my previous videos. And I'll probably mention it again because the winter is cold here and sometimes it makes photography challenging. However, I don't want to give the impression that I'm complaining all the time. So, if you think I'm whining too much about the cold or something else, please let me know in the comments and I'll do something about it. The user interface is nice and simple. There's no dedicated mode dial, but you can easily set your desired shooting mode by turning either the shutter speed dial or the aperture dial. If both dials are at A, you have the P mode, where camera takes care of the aperture and the shutter speed. If you just leave one dial at A, you have either shutter priority or aperture priority. And if you want full manual, you just set your desired shutter speed and aperture by turning the dials. You can zoom either by turning the lever around the shutter button or turning the programmable ring around the lens. You can also set the camera to zoom in steps that equal to focal lengths of 24, 28, 35, 50, 70 and 75 millimeters. I really like this feature, and even better, the camera remembers your last selected focal length. So it's relatively quick to start shooting if you prefer certain focal length. Many cameras default to the widest focal length when they are powered on, and that kinda sucks if your favorite focal length happens to be something else. It slows you down when you first have to find the right focal length before you can start shooting, and sometimes those power zooms are difficult to adjust precisely. One more thing about the user interface. The power switch is designed so that it's really hard to accidentally turn the camera on in the pocket or in the camera bag. And that's important because the lens extends quite a bit when the power is turned on. My first impressions on the LX100 Mark II are favorable, and I've enjoyed using it. However, I've only had the camera for a couple of days now, and I'll get back to this with more detailed comments after I've used the camera a bit more. I'm gonna tell you more in-depth user experience and my favorite settings for this camera. Later this week I'll be traveling to Southern Europe for a couple of days, and that's gonna be ideal use for the LX100 Mark II, because one of the uses for that kind of camera is obviously travel photography. It's gonna be a work trip, but I still hope I can shoot some travel photos for you guys to see. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.